is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. Let's see if this thing takes off. Oh, my God. It's been a long time, but that's okay. Just pick right up where we left off. Never mind all the time that has passed since. It's so silly. But, yeah, if you are a new listener, it really doesn't matter. That whole time gap between this and the last episode, or all the other times that there had been time gaps in the podcast. If you are a return listener, oh my God, you're still here? Thanks for your curiosity, wondering what the heck's going on this side of the podcast universe. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well. If there's a lot of funky background noise, that's because I'm in the outdoors taking a brisk walk, just trying to get some familiar old habits back. Yeah, so let's get started, I suppose. Yeah, so a few of you might be wondering what's been going on. What took so long to get back on the mic? Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff happened and something had to give, and unfortunately, sad to say, podcasting had to sort of take a backseat to other priorities in life. Yes, it's sad, and given how much time and whatnot have been put into getting it going several years back to its the booming success that it is today. I'm surprised. You guys have no idea. I'll get I had set up things a while back where I would get stats, download numbers and things for this podcast, and so I watched the download numbers, decrease over time, which is fine. I mean, I don't have like a huge dependence on the downloads. Unlike the very beginning, oh my God, if you are a new podcaster and you happen to be listening to this episode, and you want to know, what went on in my mind, it might be going on in your mind, is, you start off a podcast and you get so excited about being this new up-and-coming podcast, right? Which is great. The excitement, the energy, it's a good thing. But then, like a lot of things, social media, you pay attention to the downloads, like you would pay attention to likes or follows, all that stuff, right? And that's just your constant monitoring of that stuff. It's a weird way to sort of feel validated. It's a weird way to feel accepted. It's a weird way to feel that you're successful or you're doing something right? And in general, it's good to monitor. It's good to be excited. But when things start to drop, start to decline, the problem is, how do you handle yourself because of it, right? I saw my behavior. My behavior early on was I'll track to see if I'm still being showcased on iTunes. You know, what's my positioning? You know, am I climbing up in visibility? My chances of being featured, any of that stuff. And what are my download numbers? You know, why? You know, can they get higher? You know, and then when the numbers start to drop, when the visibility starts to fade, you know, and it's not what you would expect, right? Then you start to fall into this sort of depression, right? So, you know, I went through that phase, and I learned to like tune it out, you know, forget about it. I don't care, you know. So, you know, then that made it easy for me to like step away for, you know, a period of time and then come back, because, you know, I run it. It's my thing, right? There are a lot of others that say, you know, you got to keep pushing content, keep it up, because, you know, what they're trying to do is they're trying to maintain visibility. You know, the last thing they want is to fall off. And to me, I don't care. You know, fall off or not, right? Number one, this is for me, right? From episode whenever, in the very beginning, you know, I told myself, I had the recording on, I told myself that, you know, this would be a cool experiment for me to sort of celebrate and sort of communicate my experience in whatever journey I had happened to be on regarding nutrition and health and running, you know, just, which technically is just everything, right? When you think about it, Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, lifestyle, family, play. It's like, the only thing that I don't throw in there is work, right? It's a podcast about work. No, thank you. I don't like to talk about my work too much, if at all. I don't recall. You know, it's, I just leave it as that. Anyways, so, yeah, I don't care. It's an experiment. It's for me. It's a way for me to practice kind of organizing my thoughts in a way that makes sense to me, that I can communicate what's going on. I also, in the beginning, said that, you know, when I was going through a nutritional shift years ago, I was very excited about it. I was very, I felt I was getting a lot of success from it. I wanted to share my experience, because when I started, I would have loved to be able to get on a podcast, or, you know, search for podcasts that would have that information, those experiences, for me to take in to sort of help support me along my journey, right? And in the beginning, there was Vinny's podcast, Fitness Confidential podcast, which was formerly the Angriest Trainer podcast, and there was a bunch of other podcasts, like you know, I was tuning into Rich Roll's podcast before Vinny's for a little bit, and you know, there was the Endurance Planet and all these other, you know, stuff. So whatever I could find that fed my interests, which was, you know, nutritional well-being, endurance and health, you know, that stuff I was seeking out. So back then, there weren't a ton of podcast episodes or podcasts that talked about what is very common today. Things like the no sugar, no grains lifestyle, the ketogenic lifestyle, you know, using fat for fuel, you know, fat adaptation. You know, when I started, that at least from my end, seemed to be not so common. Now it is, right? So, which is great, you know. I spoke about that stuff because I was interested in it gaining as much popularity as it has. I'm not saying by no stretch that I'm responsible for it, but, you know, I'm happy that it's more noticed and accepted. you know, what does that mean? It means I don't have to talk about it anymore, do I? Right? Because now you can scour the podcast directories or whatnot and online, and you can find a lot of information about it, because there's a lot of people wanting to make money off of the idea, right? Yeah. So that was the very beginning of the podcast. You know, celebrate, be something else out there that someone can tune into to help support what they do, or to sort of keep them in the mindset. Oh, yeah. So, moving right along, that's that. The other aspect that I talked about is running, and I haven't done a whole lot of running, you know, because of the whole COVID thing, right? You know, a couple of years ago, a lot of things shut down. Things are back up now, but you know, it was that initial pandemic phase that just like, it got a whole lot of people not involved in any sort of events because the events had to shut down or they had to sort of postpone or whatever. So, you know, I didn't find myself out there participating in running events, or the ones that I traditionally wanted to. So what happens over time is that pattern of inactivity kicks in. You know, I'm busy with a lot of adjustments around how life was going to be and becoming. Like I mentioned before, the podcast took a backseat, and so here we are, back on the mic, trying to see if I can get things going again while I'm actually getting myself going again. I'm taking a brisk walk. It doesn't sound that brisk, but it's brisk enough. I'm under the sun. The sun is right above me. So getting my vitamin D, getting some aerobic exercise. And I really, really needed it because I've been spending too much time indoors. Lately, I've been working from home, which is great. But at the same time, the things that I do miss when not working at home, you know, I used to commute into the city in San Francisco. And when I'm in the city, you know, I would use the typical lunch hour to go out running instead. You know, if you go back to the old episodes, I kind of cover that type of stuff, but that was how, you know, I got a lot of my running done, was midday. But when I'm at home, it would seem logical that I'd be able to have as much time as I wanted to be able to do those things, but I didn't. You know, at the start of the pandemic, kids were homeschooling or working or schooling, doing classes remote. So there was a whole year of monitoring, making sure that the kids were where they needed to be, online when they needed to be, and set up when they needed to be. My kids are younger, or were younger. You know, my wife was also working remote. And, you know, naturally when we're together in the middle of the day and it's lunchtime, we'll gravitate towards wanting to spend time together, which meant going out for lunch or doing lunch together. So that took away from where I ordinarily would have filled my time running. You know, fast forward 2 years later, 20 pounds later, you know, I'm like, yeah, do I really care at this point? You know, do I really care? And I do, especially when health starts to get is involved, right? I'm dealing with you know, back issues. You know, more recently, my back's been a problem more recurring than it had been. It had been on and off. I may have talked about it in other episodes. You know, putting my back out, back spasms, muscle relaxants, taking a break, blah, 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 blah. So my challenge was whenever I would do something to try and kickstart getting back into shape, you know, I'll do a good 8-mile run, come back, feel great, like, yes, this is the beginning of, you know, of my reboot, right? only for like the next day, my back to give me problems, and that would take me out, however long it would take me to recover. And then, I never really get into a groove. Who knows? After today's walk, it may be enough strenuous activity to screw my back up where I'm going to be sidelined again. Hopefully not. So, that was a problem, and it ate away at my motivation, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to focus my energies elsewhere since I can't be as active as I want to be right now. And typically that was work, my wife's cookie business, family, and just trying to find gaps in between for myself, just to like feel like I have a level of control of my own sort of world, So, but even more recently, the back had been sidelining me a lot. And I was becoming more and more aware of the different levels of discomfort that it was giving me, right? And what that was doing to my interactions with others, or my endurance, not just with physical exercise, but just day to day, right? I couldn't pick up my youngest, my daughter, just to pick her up and give her a hug. I couldn't do that, right? If I couldn't, like if I wanted to do, like, I don't know, if I wanted to work on the vehicle, my back wouldn't have as much sort of endurance to be sort of squat and hunched over, working on stuff. Like I was changing spark plugs on the van a while back, and the 3 of the plugs are positioned in the back of the engine, which is practically directly below the windshield. So I had to reach over and lean over the engine, and my back gets tired, gets sore really quick. So things like that. Or just got to a point where I was just sitting down, working on the computer, and there's just enough sort of medium to low level of discomfort on my back that it kind of got exhausting. And what that meant was at the end of the workday, I was more tired than I needed to be. And if the family wanted to do stuff, my motivation wasn't really there. It was like I really just wanted to take a break. They wanted to go out and get some ice cream or something, or go to the park, and I'm like, I have to really like get my mind right to sort of kind of go through it. Sucks. So what am I doing about it now? Well, I finally got around to seeing a chiropractor. Yeah, I know. There was like, everyone has their opinion about whether or not there's value in seeing a chiropractor. I did, right? And I still have a small percentage of like skepticism, but for the most part, I appreciate it. Why do I appreciate it? Well, because I go in, I get interviewed and reviewed and examined, and I get x-rays done, and I get other scans done. And they'll show me on imaging, like, this is where you can clearly see you're misaligned, right? I was like blown away. Like, this is where, part of your spine is lacking a level of curvature, which is healthier and normal, right? So, had a couple appointments. The first one didn't have any sort of adjustments, or I didn't get any work done. It was primarily sort of getting myself started and getting myself interviewed, and an initial sort of exam and the x-rays. And they do this other thing too, sort of like a thermoscope, where they measure sort of the electrical currents that are running up and down your spine with the device. The more heat coming on in any spot up and down your spine would indicate that there's inflammation or tension or whatnot, right? So I did that stuff. I mean, I'm not severely off, right? It's not like I came in a wheelchair or like severely hunched over and crying. You know, there are patients that I've seen, you know, for the practice where they were way severely, you know, impaired by their back. But me, what it was doing for me was I was getting, you know, these periodic back pain, and it would take me out. It's sort of like a migraine to my back. It's like, you know, my back has a migraine. I gotta sort of like shut down for a few hours. Okay, now I can sort of function. I can get up, but I have all this residual discomfort and pain, tightness, and muscle spasms after the initial attack. It's sort of like that. You know, but when I wasn't in pain, what I was experiencing was, you know, I could not lift my legs up the way I needed to. Like, imagine lifting your legs up just to put on pants, right? Or slip on a sock at a time, right, while standing. I was having difficulty mostly on I was just having general difficulty getting my leg up and through the way I used to. I was like, what the heck's wrong? Did I lose that much flexibility so fast? So that was one of the things. The other was like I couldn't twist my upper body the way that, you know, I was so accustomed to doing, you know. Like if I had to kind of look behind me and I would just turn my upper body and head over, I couldn't do that how I was used to. I had to literally almost position my whole body to that. So, you know, and yeah, that makes a big deal. If you can't turn your upper body around, twist it around, right? Like leave your hips in place, but turn everything else above, around, to its fullest, you know, possible way. Then, yeah, your mobility is really, that could impact driving, right? Turning your head, you know, looking over your shoulder if you need to, backing up. So, a lot of stuff. Saw the chiropractor, got my scans. Bottom line, looked at the scans, saw how off I was. You know, how the lower part of my spine, there was a slight rotation. And to me, that translated to, that made sense. You know, because it also meant my hips were sort of, one was higher than the other. You know, they're, according to the tests, when I stood with my legs sort of shoulder width apart, I was carrying most of my weight on my left side than my right. Looking at the imagery, my spine was shifted towards the left, which meant, you know, most of my body was left centric, and that's kind of why the weight was not evenly distributed. You know, and the other thing too was, you know, signs of like arthritis towards my neck, and, you know, a lack of spacing and curvature, you know, normal curvature. So getting to see all that stuff, getting the initial adjustments on the second visit, and made things better, right, just from the get-go. And all of that information made me aware of what's going on inside of me that tells me I need to change my lifestyle so that I could better protect, you know, myself, my spine, my body, my ability to move. Yeah, man, it's, I was kind of like, let's go see what happens. I like I said, there's a small bit of skepticism, but most of it I believe in. You're like, why? If you mostly believe it, why is there a small level of skepticism? And, well, I mean, the majority is yes. So they diagnosed me with this level of stuff, and we're working towards correcting that. The first couple adjustments, lower back, mid back. Guess what? Walked away. I can lift my legs the way I used to. I can turn my body the way I used to, right? I'm a little sore, but that soreness to me is like because I've been dealing with so much on and off pain. Then you throw in a couple of adjustments on top of that. It's like I'm still sort of tender because I've been injured, right? Even the adjustments are sort of this level of injury, right? To set things straight. So I believe that stuff, worked. The skepticism is, it ends up being a business, right? So, I have to really think about, are my visits appropriate, right? Do I need to come in as frequent as it's possible to do, or does it make sense to space things out? The last thing I want is to be told, oh, you need to come in, like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days a week. To me, I'm like, one, that's a cost concern, right? And at some point you gotta take into consideration, are you better now and not need as many visits? Right? So, and after you get adjusted, isn't there a level of time that you need your body to sort of settle into that adjustment? Right? Like now, like your parts of your back are reset, shouldn't it sort of slowly morph back into that new configuration, right? And which could be tender and uncomfortable, so give it some time and then go into the next thing. Yeah, but like I said, for the most part, I buy into it. So it's just being mindful of what their recommendations are, because their recommendations are also going to take into account that they are a business and they're also there to operate a business. So yeah. So I'm at the tail end of my outing. On my way back, I got like a 10-minute hike back home. Yeah, so that, I'm trying to get back on track. Physical activity and, wanting it all to wrap into, making better choices with nutrition and stuff, because, to be honest, I haven't cared, right? I haven't cared. It's that, I know that these things are bad for me, but I'm eating it anyways. The next day, I'm going to either suffer it or I won't suffer it, and I'll just continue the pattern. And I know better. So, improve my structure, try to be more, try to build my endurance up, try to strengthen my structure, which wouldn't, all of that hopefully will build up my endurance. I've signed up for gym membership, which I haven't had for years, with I haven't had it for years. I've just spent my time running, but because I haven't been running, maybe I need to be in a gym. It works out. It's sort of a benefit through my day job, So excited about that. Haven't done it yet. I'm already all set up. I just need to find the time. My mind says, spend the time really early in the morning to work out or really late at night. Just I'm so busy, I have to really figure it out. Like just to get this sort of midday hike, brisk walk, if you will, I almost have to wing it, right? I gotta, what's the phrase? I gotta get it in where I could fit it in or something like that, right? So today was one of those days where, okay, I have this section of the day where I'm not, I don't have anything to deliver, or I don't have to sit in on a call. I'm going to take this opportunity to see if I can get myself some exercise, because at the end of the day, it'll help make me better. Anyways, that's me. I hope that you guys aren't dealing with the same shit. I hope that if you are dealing with something, that just hearing my nonsense makes you feel that you're better off. Oh, God. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I don't have anything else, I'll leave it as that. I appreciate you tuning in. And I have no promises about the next episode after this, but I will try. That, hopefully this sort of kicks things off in the right direction. Shout out to Lonnie. What's up, Lonnie? Shout out to Ted. What's up, Ted? And I shouldn't have done that, because now all the other listeners are going to be like, why didn't you shout me out, you bastard? Well, just reach out to me directly. Let me know I'm a bastard. All right, guys. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Do you need a website? If you're an individual, a consultant, a group, or small business and need a site, or maybe you have an existing site, I can help. How about graphic design? Do you need a design for a t-shirt, logo, product, business cards? Maybe you need help with designing and developing a brand. I'm not an expert, but I do have the tools and the techniques to get the job done. How about a podcast? Yep, like this thing. This thing's a silly little show. Are you looking to set up a podcast of your own? Are you looking to reach an audience? Promote your business via podcast? Well, Abadam Studios. That's right, Abadam Studios. Yeah, so that's Abadam Studios. AbadamStudios.com, AbadamStudios.com. Check it out.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.